Trump asked Netanyahu, "Did they kill any of your people?" Netanyahu said no. Trump said, "Then don't respond." Netanyahu responded anyway. Bibi told his cabinet Israel is not subordinate to the Americans. The IDF chief said Israel could strike Iran harder, and alone. The alliance is intact, just about, and the war that just ended, it may not be over. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has disclosed details of a tense exchange with US President Donald Trump, revealing that Washington pressed Israel to limit its response to Iranian attacks as both sides sought to prevent a wider regional war. According to remarks Netanyahu shared with ministers and obtained by Ynet and Yedioth Aharonoth, Trump pressed the Israeli leader during a tense phone call after Iran launched missiles at Israel in response to an Israeli strike in Beirut's southern suburbs.
Trump asked me, "Did they kill any of your people?" I told him, "No, but I am not prepared to accept an equation in which we respond only if people are killed. If they attack Israeli territory, I respond and strike back. We are not subordinate to the Americans. We are their allies. When you have a partner, you act like a partner. We are not working against them, but with them."
The Israeli leader said Trump remains committed to pursuing a diplomatic agreement with Iran, despite months of conflict and regional escalation. Netanyahu told his ministers that while he understands Washington's desire for a deal, he remains skeptical that an agreement can be reached and vowed to use every means necessary to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
I told him I completely understand his desire for an agreement, but I don't think there will be one, and we will not become victims of such an agreement.
The discussion came as senior Israeli military officials stressed that Israel retains the capability to act independently against Iran if required. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir told ministers that Israel could launch further large-scale operations against Iranian targets on its own, although maintaining military cooperation with the United States remains a strategic priority.
We could have struck Iran harder. We are prepared for a significant and powerful wave of attacks. We have the endurance to conduct an intense campaign against Iran on our own. But of course, we prefer to do it with our partner.
Zamir said preserving the unprecedented level of cooperation between the Israeli and American militaries was itself an operational objective. Israeli intelligence officials also assessed that Iran's military response had been deliberately restrained from Tehran's perspective. The comments were made before Trump later declared that the conflict with Iran had effectively ended and pointed to what he described as progress toward a potential agreement with Tehran. Hours later, Netanyahu took to X and declared that stopping Tehran's nuclear ambitions remains one of the central missions of his premiership.
As long as I am Prime Minister of Israel, Iran will not have nuclear weapons. There is full agreement between me and President Trump on this issue. For over 30 years, I have been at the forefront of the international campaign against Iran's nuclear program. Had it not been for this campaign, Iran would long ago have had atomic bombs to destroy Israel. Iran is working to destroy the Jewish state, and I dedicate my life to preventing them from doing so. As long as I am Prime Minister of Israel, this will not happen.
Iran has pushed back against mounting speculation of an imminent US-Iran deal, with a source close to Tehran's negotiating team calling reports of a finalized agreement completely false. Also, on June 12th, after reports revealed the terms of a potential US-Iran deal, Trump attacked the media with a post on his social media platform Truth Social. Trump also slammed Iran for an alleged drone attack and told Tehran's leadership to get its act together.
The terms that Iran leaked out to the fake news have nothing to do with the terms that were agreed to in writing. What they said, including their weak and pathetic statement on having a deal, bears no relation to the truth. Very dishonorable people to deal with. With them, there is no such thing as dealing in good faith. Amazing. Also, their totally rebuffed drone attack last night against Indian ships leaving the Hormuz Strait is totally unacceptable. They better get their act together, and fast.
The competing narratives from Washington, Jerusalem, and Tehran expose the deep mistrust shadowing any diplomatic resolution. With Netanyahu vowing independent action, Trump pressing for a deal, and Iran rejecting reported terms as fiction, the path to a lasting agreement remains as uncertain as ever. US President Donald Trump has declared that the conflict with Iran is effectively over, claiming Washington and Tehran have reached the framework of a major agreement. Speaking during a tele-rally, Trump claimed the United States had achieved its central objective.
I don't know if you heard, but we ended the war with Iran today, and they have agreed never to have a nuclear weapon, something that we insisted on. That was the whole purpose. That was 95% of it. And they've done it in the most powerful way you can do it.
Trump's comments came hours after he announced on Truth Social that he had cancelled planned US strikes against Iran.
Based on the fact that discussions with the Islamic Republic of Iran have been brought to the highest level of Iranian leadership, and approved I have, as President of the United States of America, canceled the scheduled strikes and bombings against Iran this evening.
But behind the scenes, the picture appears far more complicated. According to an Axios report citing diplomats and US officials involved in mediation efforts, negotiators have agreed on the text of a potential deal, but it still requires final approval from senior leadership. The Axios report says that Qatari mediator Ali Al-Thawadi held hours of talks with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi while remaining in contact with Trump envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The diplomat from one of the mediating countries, who walked Axios through the latest text, said,
The US and Iran have agreed on the text of a deal, but acknowledged the deal still needed final sign-off.
Meanwhile, one of the most striking developments is the apparent disconnect between Washington and Jerusalem. According to Axios, Netanyahu was not given a heads-up before Trump called off further strikes against Iran and said a deal could soon be signed. In recent days, Netanyahu has found himself in the dark, calling allies close to the Trump administration to try and gather information. Trump and Netanyahu later spoke by phone, and the Israeli Prime Minister's office said,
Netanyahu expressed his appreciation for Trump's commitment to the ceasefire agreement with Iran, which will include the removal of enriched nuclear material, the dismantling of enrichment infrastructure, limits on missile production, and an end to Iran's support for its terrorist proxies in the region.
Trump in his Truth Social post claimed the agreement had been approved in both concept and great detail by multiple regional actors.
Discussions and final points have been, in both concept and great detail, approved by all parties involved, including the United States, Israel, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Turkey, Pakistan, Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, Egypt, and others. The naval blockade will remain in full force and effect until this transaction is finalized. Time and place of the signing to be announced shortly.
However, Israeli officials emphasize that Israel is not a party to the US-Iran Memorandum of Understanding. Iran, for its part, is also signaling caution. Fars news agency cited a source saying Tehran has not yet agreed to any Memorandum of Understanding, although approval remains possible. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Esmail Baghaei said reports about a signing ceremony remain speculative.
Reports regarding a time and place of signing the agreement remained speculative, and nothing had been finalized. A large part of the negotiating text had been finalized, but the US repeatedly changed its positions during the talks.
Adding another twist to the Middle East drama, NBC News reported that US forces were reportedly just 3 hours away from launching strikes on Iran, before Trump abruptly announced the deal and called off the operation. Meanwhile, the IRGC has stated that Iran now stands in a more powerful, more prepared, and more deterrent position than ever before, maintaining complete intelligence dominance over enemy movements and remaining with fingers on the trigger, fully ready to deliver a decisive, immediate, painful, and regret-inducing response to any threat, aggression, or miscalculation by the enemy. For now, Trump is presenting the conflict as resolved, but with Israel reportedly caught off guard, Tehran withholding final approval, and key details still under negotiation, the future of any US-Iran agreement remains uncertain.